The Special Tribunal of South Africa will hear arguments in the matter between the Special Investigating Unit and the 40 Gauteng-based contractors implicated in wrongdoing relating to the buying of COVID-19 personal protective equipment with government money. Now, in August, the Special Tribunal was granted an interim order freezing 38.7 million rand in several bank accounts. It also interdicted the Gauteng Department of Health from making further payments to the Lidla Structural Development Pty Ltd and the 39 other respondents. Now, the other order was made to the Government Employees Pension Fund, barring the release of pension money to the department's former Chief Financial Officer, that's Mantsu Kabelo Lehlwenya. Joining us now is Selby Makgotho. He is the spokesperson for the Special Tribunal of South Africa. Sir, good morning to you, and thank you very much for making the time to come speak to us here. In simple terms, what exactly is it today that you will be seeking to do? And I think I'm interested in the outcomes of this process that you're going to embark on.
Thank you very much, Xoli. Good morning to the viewers, and thank you indeed for having me. What happened is that the process actually took place yesterday. We were at the Special Tribunal sitting at the Gauteng Division of the local High Court in Johannesburg, where precisely it was the return day wherein the respondents that were cited in the court papers before the Special Tribunal ought to have come and argued their case yesterday as to why the interim order could not be made final.
Can I interrupt you there for a second?
Yes.
Who were those individuals who were present there? Can you give us names?
Yes, well, the applicant is the Special Investigating Unit, and the respondents, they are 40 in number. But the first respondent is Lidla Structural Development. There are quite a number of them. I would not recall all of them here. But suffice to say that the order, in terms of the application that is before the Special Tribunal, is to the effect that all these 40 companies that are alleged to have been involved in the supply and the acquisition or procurement of the PPE material in the Department of Gauteng were interdicted. So the bank accounts have been frozen to that effect. Yeah. So that was an interim order. And what the arguments were supposed to be yesterday were to the effect that this interim order, the applicant argues that it ought to be made final. And the respondents would have reasons in one way or the other as to why that would not be made final. So that was supposed to be the arguments of the day yesterday. However, upon arrival at the court, it was found that the parties were not ready to proceed with the matter. Before the sitting, some of the respondents, not all of them, as soon as the order was granted on the 20th of August, clear timelines were set as to what papers ought to be filed by when. We noted with disappointment yesterday as a Special Tribunal that some of the parties, in particular the respondents, had not filed their papers on time. And some of them were even filing as late as yesterday morning, just a few hours before we went into court. We took note of that, set out very, very clear timelines as to what papers ought to be submitted by when. So this process ought to be finalized by the 4th of November, and on the 9th of November, the order has indicated that the parties need to sit together in what we would refer to as case management, so that all the issues can be set out and make the matter ripe for hearing on the 20th and 21st of November. That is wherein we will hear the arguments of this particular matter.
And the powers of the Special Tribunal, once matters have been ventilated, what happens next?
Orders will be made. Depending on the merits of the case, the merits of the arguments, ultimately a proper determination will be made. But I need to indicate that in terms of the act governing the Special Tribunal, it could be preservation orders, it could be interlocutory orders, it could be interdict, and any other form of order as the Special Tribunal may so direct. So those have binding powers, they will be implemented. As we speak, for instance, the order that has been granted to the effect that the bank accounts ought to be frozen is in place. Those bank accounts have been frozen. And I must also maybe indicate that one of the things that was clarified immediately yesterday was that there was a little bit of a misunderstanding in terms of the interpretation of the initial interim order. And it was found, in fact, it was raised in the sitting yesterday of the Special Tribunal that some of the accounts that do not have anything to do with this particular matter have also been frozen. And the judge, Judge Billy Motle, yesterday clarified that to say the order is only applicable to the amount explicitly stated in the order, not any other order that is irrelevant to the application.
Yeah.
So that was also one of the things. So coming back to your question, yes, we do have powers as the Special Tribunal, and at the end of it all, an appropriate relief will so be made.
Final question to you. The applicant in this matter is the SIU, which has asked you to freeze these
bank
accounts. Where do you understand investigations to be by the SIU, and specifically with issues that affect Lidla, for example? Because I also want to touch on this issue of the pension fund of the former CFO. Is that something that is permissible in law, to freeze someone's pension funds?
I would not speak on behalf of the investigation because we are not an investigating body. The applicant in this case is the SIU, and they are responsible for the investigations. Although we have been established in terms of the same act, the SIU and the Special Tribunals Act 74 of 1996, we are entirely different in terms of our operations. They are responsible for the investigation, for the gathering of evidence, and upon finalization, they will then approach the Special Tribunal to institute civil proceedings. That is where the difference comes in. So once the matters come to the Special Tribunal, then it's a new matter altogether. Then we will take it, and based on the papers before the Special Tribunal, nothing more, nothing less.
All right.
It is indeed, it is indeed argued in the papers before the Special Tribunal that one of the areas of contention in this regard pertaining to the freezing of the pension fund in respect of the former chief financial officer.
Yeah.
Arguments have been made that by the applicants that because investigations into certain allegations are still underway, it will be in the best financial interest of the state to have that process halted in the interim. And once they have finalized what they ought to finalize, they will come back to the Special Tribunal for a reconsideration of the order. And I must also indicate that this is not the first time that the Special Tribunal has come to that decision or to that determination where the pension funds have been frozen pending further investigations. We do have a case of the former head of the state attorney in Johannesburg who could not access the pension fund because investigations were still happening. We have the case of the former head of the Department of Health in the Northwest Province, who also is in the same space. We have the former head of the Lepelle Northern Water in Limpopo, who also had his pension fund frozen. These are interim orders. At an appropriate time, once investigations are conducted, have been finalized, appropriate orders will so be made. And again, I must also indicate, tomorrow the Special Tribunal will be hearing an urgent application pertaining to the Beit Bridge border fence issue. That is an urgent application brought by the SIU. On papers, there are affidavits to that effect, and the relief being sought is to temporarily freeze the assets of whoever is alleged to have been involved in certain irregularities. So we have got precedents to that effect, and we have not yet had any difficulties, because what the Special Tribunal does, it's only adhering to the Constitution and the law.
Right.
Arguments are being advanced on papers, cases are being decided on merits, and that is where the Special Tribunal stands in on these matters.
All right. Selby Makgotho, he is the spokesperson for the Special Tribunal of South Africa. Makgotho.
Yes.
Selby Makgotho. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
For taking the time to speak to us.